It's like the old real estate adage, location, location, location. We have a prime location setting at the mouth of Tampa Bay. In addition to that, we've got assets that most ports would kill for here at Port Manatee. We've got deep water berths and channel. We've got warehouse capacity. We've got land area available for development. We've got uncongested access to the interstate highway system. Just a tremendous advantages. Most ports are landlocked because cities grew up around them. But here at Port Manatee, they had the foresight to put us where we could grow.
Port Manatee is a regulated transportation facility, like all ports are. And we have to configure and scale our security measures, particularly based on the things that we transport. It's a continuously moving target, depending on what the port business is. There are a bunch of moving parts that we had to figure a way to nail down. You have multiple tenant operators who have a very diversified load of cargo, so we needed to find a way to unify them into a system that's standardized outside the gate. We wanted to incorporate the things we have to have. We have to be able to utilize the TWIC. So what we did is we looked for a solution that would allow us to integrate all of those moving processes into one product.
Accountability in the security world is very important. It's one of the fundamental principles that we all base everything off of. It's the means to tie back an activity to an entity or a user, and then hold that person responsible or that entity responsible for what happened. It works on a system of identifying those that have access to the system. The system we use, we actually have everybody that works through the system or operates with the system is identified. They have a card and they're enrolled in our system. And the second part of the accountability is having an audit trail, following those events that are happening with each individual user so that you can then hold them responsible.
When I'm dealing with access to the facility, we're regulated by the Coast Guard, and they're actually concerned that we verify and vet everybody who comes into the port, and that we have an idea where they come and go, when they come and go. And if they don't have a TWIC card, their movements we have to have a much tighter control on because they're not given unescorted access. On the other end of the world, as things depart, our partners with Customs are really concerned with the way cargo moves out of the port, that the right people are taking the right cargo out. Based upon the solution that we put in place, there are certain workflows that are established that deal with different commodities, and that's part of the way that we are able to adjust to the multifaceted business that we have.
The Siemens system has actually been very helpful in the compliance aspect, because before we had a hard time keeping track of who it was, where they were going, and keeping, like I said, an audit trail running. With the Siemens system, it's quite the opposite. It's built around compliance. Anytime somebody scans, it makes a workflow. Workflows are how we track people throughout the port. From the time they come in, tell us that they're doing whatever, whether they're picking up or visiting a facility, we track them from that point on.
We can do the electronic verification, we can do the one-to-one match to a TWIC credential, and we can do that without impacting the flow of traffic. We actually worked on a solution that gave us some redundancy also. We're not solely dependent on the proximity elements of the TWIC card or the contact reader. Based on how we enroll people in the system, we are able to have some backup and use some of the other technologies on the TWIC, even if there are some failures. For the most part, we have a pretty robust solution because we have the ability, even if there are technology problems with the card, to still use it. On top of that, the cargo release and link has actually helped us a great deal. Based on how the workflows were configured by our Siemens partners, they actually have gotten us to a situation where we can do that one-to-one match, that accountability for cargo that we need to do. Those are things we think are extremely successful.
For the port, security is a profit center. Security costs since 9/11 have increased dramatically. So we are always looking for ways to recover those expenses. And we're able to do that with Siemens because it provides an efficient way to assess those fees to the users who we provide the services to.
We actually have been very fortunate through the FEMA grant process. We have received over $10 million through the Port Security Grant Program. It has done everything from buy us vehicles, help us construct our security center, and do much of the integration that we've been talking about today. If we didn't have those federal dollars and that type of resources, it would be difficult for a port of our size to initiate anything that's got this degree of complexity or effectiveness. It really has helped us get our programs up and running. We also have had the ability to do some outreach and things that help support the regular citizens that are outside of port activities. In the Access Control Center behind me, we actually do the TSA pre-check stuff for the airports. We also work a collaborative program with the Coast Guard to manage a security zone around the port, which would normally have been closed to those people, but because we have decided to do this joint project, we have created the mechanism where they can still benefit from the resources that are out there. What we do know on seaports is that things change. The regulations change, our operations change. There were periods of time of frustration when it comes to trying to get things flowing. A lot of that, I think, is because of the way the rules are. But one thing I can credit Siemens for is that no matter how difficult or how challenging some of these changes were, they were there to help us make the modifications. They were a partner who bought into the process, and good or bad, they owned it with us. So because of that, we have been able to work through those and get to the point where we are today.
So, looking down the road, not only do we see ourselves as Manatee County's primary economic driver, but also for the region. And our goal for the port in general is to become one of America's premier seaports. And we think that's achievable in the long run for Port Manatee.
Siemens, ingenuity for life.